So, in a totally unsurprising turn of events, okay, the Trump administration is apparently considering drone strikes on drug cartel. What can I say? Okay, let's just get into it. All right.
Stock market.
And welcome back. It is a very busy day here. We continue our coverage. We are joined now by Wisconsin Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Kristen. Thanks for having me.
I have to start off just by getting your reaction to the news by President Trump that he's basically lowering those across-the-board tariffs to 10%. Did he make the right decision, Congressman?
Well, he should have.
Okay, I don't care. The Trump administration is considering launching drone attacks on drug cartels in Mexico as a part of an ambitious effort to combat criminal gangs trafficking narcotics across the southern border, according to six current and former U.S. military, law enforcement, and intelligence officials with knowledge of the matter. Discussions among White House, Defense Department, and intelligence officials, which are still at an early stage, have included possible drone strikes against cartel figures and their logistical networks in Mexico with the cooperation of Mexico's government, the sources said. Now, since the line is literally in the dirt and our standards are 6 feet under, the fact that they're even considering the Mexican government's help at all in this matter is fucking nuts. Now, I am actually curious. I'm actually curious as to know whether or not the Mexican government is actually willing to help them out in this endeavor, because this endeavor is fucking nuts. How you manage to reduce drug trading, fentanyl trading, and all this stuff is not by brute force. These groups are guerrilla warfare people, okay? These groups will always exist as long as there is a demand for drugs, okay? Now, what you do is that with everything in this world, it's way better, it's just straight up way better to cripple the gangs economically, okay? Let me explain how. For example, Portugal, okay? Actually, yes, it is. I think it is Portugal. Portugal had a drug decriminalization policy where what they did was they had drug recovery, where they handed people who were doing drugs like fentanyl and heroin at specified places in the city, legal places. They would be given these warnings by police officers to show up at a drug hearing date, where then they are determined whether or not they want to choose to go to drug recovery that is facilitated by the government. This was working perfectly fine for a couple of years. However, the reason why it failed in the end was because the government reallocated funds, and with all problems in our current government, it's all a problem with allocation of funds. Almost every problem that I can remember looking into, it's all an allocation of funds. The problem is always comes down to now. Conservatives love to bring up this example as an example of, oh, drug decriminalization fails. Oh, this is why it doesn't work, right? Now, no, it isn't that the policy doesn't work. It's because of how you do it, like all things, right? For example, if you want to reduce your reliance on China, you wouldn't impose tariffs. You would try to diversify where you get your imported goods from. That's how you reduce your reliance on China. Okay? Now, that's a totally not real world example to do that, because, what kind of administration would possibly do something as crazy as tariffs on China? Oh, okay. All right. So the Trump administration, I got it. Okay. So again, with the war on drugs, I can totally understand, all right, wanting to take out some big leaders and stuff like that. That's fine. Okay. However, I can only begin to think about the ways that the Trump administration can fuck this up. Okay, can you just imagine if they just happen to, well, I don't know, like hit a few innocent people, have the wrong intel for things, Pete Hegseth adding, somebody to a group chat and then a journalist seeing it, or like a drug cartel member seeing it. Good thing that never happens, right? Okay, cool. Still, the administration has made no final decision and reached no definitive agreement about countering the cartel. Unilateral covert action without Mexico's consent has not been ruled out and could be an option of last resort, the sources said. It is unclear whether American officials have floated the possibility of drone strikes to the Mexican government. If Mexico and the United States proceed together with drone strikes on other on other action, it would not be the first time they have launched a joint effort to take on the cartels, nor would it be the first time that American military and intelligence worked in concert with Mexico's law enforcement and army. But what the Trump administration is contemplating could be unprecedented both in the number of U.S. personnel involved and in the use of American unmanned aircraft to bomb cartel personnel and assets. Administration officials and nominees have repeatedly refused to rule out drone strikes in public statements. Uh-oh. That means they're definitely going to do it, okay? The US military and the CIA have dramatically stepped up surveillance flights over Mexico to collect intelligence in advance of what is likely to be a major campaign against the cartels, which the White House has labeled a threat to national security. The six sources said the flights are being carried out with Mexico's approval. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has said. We're looking to build a target deck, one of the former officials, who is familiar with the administration's plans, said of the surveillance flights. The potential target list most likely could include cartel operatives, vehicles, warehouses, and other parts of the gang's network, the sources said. Sheinbaum, I believe. Okay, cool. The White House National Security Council did not respond to a request for comment. After this article was originally published, Sheinbaum addressed it and the question of U.S. drone strikes at a news conference. We reject any form of intervention or interference. That's been very clear. Mexico coordinates and collaborates, but does not subordinate itself. There is no interference, nor will there be, she said, according to a translation provided by the Mexican embassy to the United States. While this idea hasn't been formally proposed, we made it clear that it wouldn't address the root of the issue. What truly works is ongoing attention to root causes, arrests driven by intelligence, and investigation, coordination, and zero tolerance for impunity. We categorically reject any such actions, and we don't believe they will happen. There's a strong ongoing dialogue on security and many other matters. Oh, okay. So there we go. All right. The administration hopes to coordinate any actions, blah, blah, blah. All right. Staging a military attack on the cartels in Mexico without the government's consent would arguably violate international law. Man, when was the last time anyone gave a fuck about international law at this point? Like, no one's held accountable, so who the fuck gives a fuck, right? I'm reading super fast just to see what there is. They're scrambling right now, Oz said. There's a lot of disorganization amongst the cartel. Cartels are not terrorist organizations, the former military officer said. They're not ideologically aligned. They are not religious. They don't want to die for their job. Now, here's the thing. I can totally see a joint effort, okay? I can totally see the possibility of something like a joint effort where what essentially happens is you are trying to cripple the cartels economically, and at the same time, you're also attacking them militarily. Because if you have something like that, then maybe it'll be like good on both ends, right? But at the same time, I wouldn't trust the Trump administration to do something like this whatsoever. Like I just do not trust. Considering, the great job that they did on the tariffs is just a fucking horrible disaster. But yeah, I mean, like we'll just have to see where but yeah, no, like attacking cartels aggressively, physically, using the military is, well, first of all, it's not a good use of resources. There could have been other places that these resources could have been going to, right? And second of all, like, well, it doesn't address the root issue. It doesn't address any of the root issue whatsoever.